The heart, the core of everything we do here at the mission centers on the gospel of Christ. We invite our community to come down and to simply sit down and have a meal with someone who's homeless, break bread with them, and in that, be able to view them as Jesus in the flesh. I am having a meal with Jesus, and in response, what is Jesus saying to me? That is a dynamic that transforms not just a homeless person's life, but our life as well.
Well, when I was in the mental hospital, I had like a spiritual awakening where I went from being afraid and scared and in the dark to being, I wasn't afraid anymore, and God just kind of put it in my heart that everything was going to be okay, and it just changed everything. Like from then I started seeing the light, and I wasn't in the darkness anymore. In the program, we did a lot of Bible studies, and we went to chapel, and so I got to learn about God and Jesus and what He did for me and for all of us. Without Jesus, it was definitely dark and cold. There was a lot of bad things that happened around me and around doing the drugs, and I would say a lot of evil was around. And the Bible study was really helpful because I didn't really understand the Bible, so I didn't read it very often, but Bible study, we would break it down and they would explain things so I'd understand more. Spiritually, I've grown a lot. I'm not broken like I used to be. Just seeing the transformation and the change in my life, it really inspires others, and I'd like to help others that were in the situation I was in 2 years ago. And what my life is like today, I'm really happy today. I can say that I have a job, I'm successful, I'm happy, and I have the New Life Recovery Program to thank for that. But now that I have Jesus in my life, everything is great. The devil's still around, but he tries to tempt me, but it doesn't work. God gives me grace.
When people come to the mission, they have an opportunity to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But far more than a meal, they're able to finally sit down with other people, and they're able to socialize and become part of a community that ultimately is going to lead to their healing and restoration.
So I had nowhere to live, and I had a choice to live, to come to the mission or to live on the street. My daughters basically dropped me off and gave me that option, and that's how I got here. But when I first walked in, I immediately felt welcome when I was greeted, immediately.
I was shooting up and selling drugs, and I was just staying high all the time, and I ended up in another mental hospital. I had a suicide attempt, and it was there I filled out my application for the Women's New Life Recovery Program, and they accepted me, and I went into the program December 5th, 2017, and it changed my life, definitely saved my life. When I was totally broken when I went into the program.
When you're homeless or almost homeless like I was, you're hungry and you don't know where you're going to get your meal, and immediately I got here in the afternoon and I was here for dinner, and dinner was awesome.
Where I came from and where I am now is completely different. It's like night and day. In mealtime, even at the Victory House, we connected, us girls. We had a really strong connection, and we built really good relationships, and I consider them my sisters. So it was really amazing for the community to donate all the food that, for the preparation for all the meals that we give out. So yeah, it was definitely amazing for all the volunteers.
What was the kitchen like? It was fun, it was fun, and it was rewarding, and knowing that you were making this food for others.
They come in for meals and they leave with hope. They get hope when they're here, and they get encouragement. We try to inspire everybody.
The Good News Rescue Mission is Shasta County's only 24/7 emergency shelter. And as a result, we see just over 2,000 people every year. It's amazing because people are able to come here, they find shelter, but more than shelter, they become part of a family that is able to give them hope for their future.
When you're out there getting high, you're numb. You're not even thinking about the future. You're not thinking about where you're gonna go, where you're gonna live, My problem is I would have trouble reading and writing, so being a drug dealer helped me employ myself. So I started doing meth at 17 and just continued for a few years, and then I met a lady, and I was with her for 9 years, and she ended up ODing in my arms. Used for another 9 years after that, just to numb the pain. So there was no future. And then I woke up in prison at 35 with 2 felonies. I'm like, oh my, what am I gonna do now? On the way to prison, I had met some guy named Luke. He introduced me to the Lord. So when I got to prison reception, that's when I gave my life to the Lord, because this was my choices. It made me end up in prison. I took a thing called an N number. It's a narcotics number. It's not a regular prison number. And part of that, you have to be released to an address. And I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? I've been living in laundry rooms, people's backyards. So there was a guy in there named Russell that was a friend of mine. He was already accepted in the New Life program. I asked for a letter, and I got it through Dave Honey, the pastor, and so I got accepted to the New Life program. So I ended up coming here, doing my program. The major difference is where I wouldn't have to sleep in people's backyards and laundry rooms, but coming here and having a safe place to live. It made me feel good. Out there being an addict, I didn't know how to get out of it. So coming here, being in the program, gave me a purpose of life.
A big part of our hearts here at the Mission is to help people gain all of the skills they need to succeed in the employment outside of the Mission. And with that, we developed an academic center, which allows people to go through computer literacy training. They're able to get their high school diploma. A lot of people go through a college prep, and they go through a job readiness course. Ultimately, we are preparing people to be the best job applicants that an interview panel is going to see.
I hit rock bottom in jail on a real serious charge. A lot of people that go to jail, they say, yeah, I found Jesus, and that's where they made their turnaround. I did a lot of praying and a lot of soul searching. I had a phone interview while I was in jail with Josh here at the Good News Rescue Mission, and that was a huge day to be able to talk to someone from a program that would allow me to come with open arms, and be a part of something that was better than where I was at and where I was going. I've got my family back. I've got classes that I'm taking. I'm finding out who I am as a father, as a parent, as a man. So those family members are now back in my life. They're proud of what I'm doing. They're excited to see what I'm going to be. I've been going to these online classes, and I never thought that I would be anything other than a 5th grade math level, but I'm actually doing algebra, and I don't dread going to those classes. I'm actually excited to go and get help, from the teachers and from the volunteers that come in. They're the ones that they spend a lot of time with us, and it's pretty awesome what they've accomplished over there, because I thought for sure I was unteachable. The counselors, the case managers, and the volunteers make it easy. It feels unbelievably great. I never had such a support team in my life. It's amazing. I'm just grateful to be here and to accept what God's giving me. Is I'm going to soak up all the knowledge I can and all the wisdom I can get. And it's tough on some days, but it's at the end of each day I feel accomplished.
The recovery program gives everybody tools to prevent relapse, but at the same time, it forms their identity in Christ so they can live this brand new life.
I will never forget, I was in my jail cell and I heard the words House of Hope. So at that time, that was the recovery program's name. I didn't have a clue as to how I was gonna, get into this program. I just knew that I heard those words so loud and clear. And so my probation officer sent the director of the House of Hope, Michelle, to interview me in jail. And for me, I think all I was thinking about is, please just take me in, please, please, As we were finishing up, she had asked the big question, do you think you're an addict? My answer was no. And in that moment, she looked at me and she said, then I don't think this program is right for you. Let's get real. And at that moment, I knew that this was life or death for me. It's either prison or it's recovery. From then, my heart changed slowly. It started to soften from the hardness that was there. I fell in love with the Lord there. I knew that I wasn't going to go back to what was. There was going to be something that needed to change, and that was me. I clung on to the memory verse that says that God will restore what the locusts have eaten. And it has changed my life. He's restored 100%. So in my journey of the mission, I was able to and honored to be able to be a case manager for the Victory House, the Women's New Life Recovery Program. I got to see God's handiwork in restoration of families, of kids coming back to their mom, of moms working so hard at changing their life, knowing that it was the hardest thing that they were ever going to do. And that was my heart, was watching women come in broken and leave fixed, well, put together, mended hearts.
Will you help us make sure that everybody here knows the abundant love of God? Will you partner with us and commit to being a prayer warrior, interceding for everybody at the mission, our guests, our staff, and our students? Go to gnrm.org and sign up today.